Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. Folks, as we speak to you today, January 14th, 2025, the fires are still raging in California. In fact, two new fires have popped up overnight, and they are blamed mostly on the Santa Ana winds that you just can't. It was predicted that the winds would be picking up. Two enormous fires raged in the Los Angeles area on Tuesday morning as Southern California braced for another round of strong winds that could spread more blazes. These two fires, the Eaton and the Palisades, have killed at least 24 people and only recently began to be partly contained. The Eaton fire has killed at least 16 people. It now ranks among the 10 deadliest in California history. Officials have warned that the death toll is likely to rise and that the full scale of the destruction is still unknown. The fires began on Tuesday last week and spread rapidly, fueled by the strong Santa Ana winds. About 40,000 acres have been burned by the fires in the last week, and about 100,000 residents are still under evacuation orders. These fires are absolutely not under control. The devastation is unbelievable. The firemen and the emergency workers, the constant is that they are still doing their job. They're still working hard. They're out there 24/7 fighting these fires, trying to keep them contained. What to know about the California wildfires? Santa Ana winds are set to cause critical fire conditions over the next 3 days. This is according to Newsweek. Across parts of Los Angeles and Ventura counties, as the region continues to battle historic and deadly blazes. The wind-fed wildfires have killed at least 24 people, and as we know, swept through 40,000 acres in the greater Los Angeles area, destroying entire communities and more than 12,300 structures. The largest blaze, the Palisades fire, has burned over 23,000 acres and was only 14% contained as it threatened Brentwood, Encino, and Westwood. Evacuation orders are in effect for 92,000 residents of Los Angeles. 89,000 are in evacuation warning zones, which means they may need to leave in a moment's notice. So this, again, is not under control. It is not contained. And all we can do is keep fighting it and keep the emergency workers supplied, keep fresh workers coming in to try to fight these fires, because these blazes are just creating absolute devastation. The people that live in these areas, have lost everything: homes, livelihoods, cars, possessions. It's just unfathomable for us, for those that do not live there. So all we can do is sit back, donate money to the Red Cross, and hope and pray for the folks that live in California. So folks, hold on to your hats, hold on to your cup of coffee, hold on to your head, hold on to your wig, your toupee. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off the cuff zone, the police off the cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now a word from our sponsor. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball to NHL and UFC, BetOnline is the number one sports betting source for the new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, folks, when we look at the devastation, and the game last night was moved out of LA into Arizona, between the Rams and the Minnesota Vikings, and you could see there was a lot of it. It reminded me of somewhat of 9/11, how the teams they sort of saluted the LA Fire Department wearing shirts that praised them, LAFD. And so even the NFL on a national stage was commiserating with the people from Los Angeles and hopefully helping these people. And let's hope that the private sector comes up with some large donations to back the people of LA with their pocketbook and not just their mouth. Let's hope that. I want to play this from NBC News.
Across the region, they mount an all-out attack to control the much larger fires that have devastated entire sections of Los Angeles, with those Santa Ana winds ramping back up overnight and due to peak today. 13 million people under red flag warnings. The National Weather Service calling the conditions about as bad as it gets. As investigators search the area looking for a cause, multiple law enforcement sources tell NBC News that an early focus is a possible human cause of the fire, though no conclusions have been reached. A week after the firestorms exploded, homes in the Pacific Palisades burn zone are still smoldering. Crews putting out hotspots here and in Altadena. Officials urging residents to stay out of evacuation zones.
People are saying, I just want to go look at my house and I want to see what's left. We know that, but we have people literally looking for the remains of your neighbors.
As thousands of families search for places to stay, the district attorney is vowing to prosecute illegal price gouging. But realtors and families we met say they're seeing homes go for thousands above asking.
We're going to find your house, I promise. I promise we'll find it.
The Palmentier family, including their pup Apollo, just one of dozens packing an open house in Santa Monica after flames consumed their beloved Palisades home.
Everybody's going to have 100 applications, and they're going to pick one, and hopefully they pick you.
A city on edge, searching for answers as deadly winds still threaten.
And overnight, we've learned that LA's mayor has announced a sweeping executive order that's supposedly hoping to expedite the rebuilding process. Among key focus areas here, Craig, they want to get debris out as quickly as possible and get 1,400 housing units online and available for these families as fast as they can. Meanwhile, fire crews tell me that they're especially concerned about these neighboring canyons. They have hand crews in there as we speak, trying to keep a single ember from causing another reignition. Craig?
All right. Morgan Chesky there for us once again in California. Morgan, thank you.
So, I question the rebuilding and the rebuilding in so quickly, because won't this just happen again? Are they out of the woods? So to just put up 1,400 new houses as you remove the debris, what about the infrastructure that's going to support these houses vis-a-vis the reservoirs, the water, the forestation that's going to prevent these fires in the future? Isn't that more important than just building new homes right away without the thought? Because this happens all the time. These Santa Ana winds aren't something that is an aberration. It happens all the time. So don't we need better infrastructure in order to rebuild these communities? I mean, I'm not an expert on rebuilding communities, but it would only make sense. And I know from a political standpoint, you want to get people back in their homes. But putting up houses without first seeing that the infrastructure can support these homes and that these devastating fires won't happen again, isn't that more important? And again, people want new homes and they want to get back into their homes.
An all-out battle from the air and the ground as they brace for the worst of those punishing Santa Ana winds. The National Weather Service warning conditions to be as bad as it gets, with the potential for hurricane-force winds over the next 48 hours. 13 million are under red flag warnings, stretching north of Santa Barbara to San Diego County. With more than 8,000 firefighters now in the front lines, officials insist they're better prepared with more ground and air resources this time around.
Just behind us here, you can see a massive burn scar. There's no more smoke, no more fire, but there's still a danger. And that's why there are lines of firefighters right now with cutting tools like chainsaws and axes, clearing all the brush, making sure there's no fuel in case those winds pick up and carry embers.
We were with CAL FIRE as they worked to clear brush before those dangerous winds hit burn zones.
So you're worried about this area because there's still brush here and it's so close to those homes right there.
That's correct.
Firefighters lined up on cliffs, scaling canyons, and on the lookout.
They're putting their lives on the line to get out in front of something that most people wouldn't get in front of.
Over the weekend, California's National Guard dropping flame retardant on hot spots in the Palisades fire after flare-ups forced new evacuations in Encino and Brentwood, triggering this eerie fire tornado. The Eaton and Palisades fire still mostly uncontained, with speculation on the origins of the infernos running rampant. The ATF now leading a newly formed task force to investigate the cause of the Palisades fire, as multiple law enforcement sources tell NBC News that a possible human cause is an early focus in this case.
They're identifying cause and origin for each of these separate fires. There's so many of them. None have been ruled out of arson.
The death toll has now reached 24 and expected to rise, including 95-year-old Delise Mama D. Curry of Altadena.
That was her refrigerator. This is where she would be.
Her granddaughter looking for her remains in what's left of her home.
Mama D, are you here?
Officials today urging residents to stay out of evacuation zones.
People are saying, I just want to go look at my house and I want to see what's left. We know that, but we have people literally looking for the remains of your neighbors.
Law enforcement in the region announcing more than 70 arrests, including looting and burglary charges. The FBI says unauthorized drones over the fire zones are now well into the double digits as they search for the drone pilot that crashed into a Canadian super scooper last week, grounding the aircraft for days. Today, the Los Angeles Unified School District reopened most of its 1,000 campuses, giving students some return to normalcy.
I've been pretty scared coming here, but but as long as the doors are open, I feel safe.
Schools damaged by the fires or inside the evacuation zones remain closed, with tens of thousands pushed from their homes, now forced to start over. One estimate says the insured losses are already at least $30 billion.
Right now, I'm trying to just keep it together to find us a place to live for us, temporary living for our family and my parents.
Andrea Heindel lost her family home, as did her parents.
How tough is it?
It is tough. There's millions of people looking at millions of different places, and so we just have to figure out one step at a time how we're going to handle it.
And with the winds bringing the possibility of new fires and destruction just like this, some homeowners plan to take matters into their own hands. Once again, Gotti Schwartz tonight with their stories.
We're gonna help you! For days, so many across Los Angeles faced off against apocalyptic wildfires. Some homeowners defying the evacuation orders, choosing to protect their properties amid the hellscape.
We need a water drop. We need a water drop.
Sprinklers, hoses, generators, pumps. And tonight, facing new red flag warnings, some Angelenos say they are preparing for round two. In wealthy enclaves, rows of water trucks and private firefighters standing at the ready.
And right here we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different water trucks. There's another 3 down the way.
Those in the evacuation zones who lived to tell the tale of how they saved their streets say they did what they could with high-pressured hoses.
So we were in all of our neighbors' backyards and lugging our hoses around.
In Altadena, Felipe Carrillo saving 2 houses on his street with a garden hose.
I caught on fire a couple of times.
You caught on fire?
Yes. And so what I started doing is every once in a while, I would just spray myself with the garden hose. Just soak myself with the garden hose and continue to fight.
Fire officials say those who stay to fight the fire are putting their lives at risk. 66-year-old Victor Shaw died in the Eaton fire. His remains found holding a garden hose. Right along the coast, owners of this row of homes had their own fire hoses ready and some willing to risk their lives.
There's another hot spot that just started up. So we're hooking up our fire hoses again to put it down before the wind starts again.
When the fire rolled in, Clayton Colbert and his friends stood their ground, tapping into the hydrant and saving 6 homes.
Do you have any firefighting experience? I mean,
I do now.
Yeah. What do you think would have happened if you and your neighbors weren't here?
Oh, my house would have been gone in a matter of minutes.
Tonight, Steve Foster's home is still standing, but most of the surrounding community is gone.
It's been difficult, but we're getting through it.
Would you leave?
I'm not leaving. I've been here the whole time. I have no intentions of leaving until my neighbors are back.
And Tom, technically, it's a misdemeanor not to evacuate during the chaos, but it's not always enforced. However, firefighters say, bottom line, every moment during a firefight is precious. And if they have to be pulled off of a fire line to come save someone that is not supposed to be there, it not only jeopardizes their lives, but puts the whole community at risk.
So, unbelievable how these people, the human spirit, the spirit to fight, the spirit to try to save their own homes, just unbelievable. And we see the area that's affected by this on the map that's on the screen. It's just absolutely incredible. But as I said, the human spirit and the will to keep fighting, to preserve homes, just absolutely incredible. There's also been, of course, people will call it the blame game. Who's responsible for this? There's no doubt that there was some real problems with planning here and preparation. And but most Los Angelinos, as they've been referred to, see this somewhat as an act of God with these Santa Ana winds, that there's somewhat, as much as you could get used to something like this, they are accustomed to it. Let's put it that way. I don't think you ever get used to this. But how could better preparation, better preparedness have mitigated this more quickly? Here we are, it's still not under control. And to me, when I hear them speak about rebuilding right now, isn't it a little bit premature? The ground is still hot. The fires are still burning. To me, when the mayor talks about hastily putting up 1,400 homes, you don't even have the infrastructure to put out fires. And I think it's a little bit crazy to be talking about putting up new homes as the fires are still burning. This was on Dan Abrams last night. And again, people want to assign blame. Is it not helpful, or is it a necessary thing to talk about the preparation for this or the lack thereof and what's going on right now at the same time? That's for you to decide.
For the independent investigation that Newsom is calling for. I'm sure that is really going to get to the bottom of the issue here, and I'm sure he's going to be absolved of all blame. We're probably going to hear that this is all about global warming, which it is most certainly not. to be very fair, and I try to be very fair with Governor Newsom as much as I can be, even though my children refer to him as Governor Poosum ever since the COVID panic. I actually blame the mayor of Los Angeles more than I blame Governor Newsom. And I also blame the freak of no rain in December and record winds in January. That's why this particular fire happened. But let's be clear, as Governor Newsom said, he's been governor for 6 years. This is a one-party state. There's not even a legitimate news media in this state. He owns it. He breaks it. He owns it. And so when you have the results, as catastrophic as these results are, there needs to be some responsibility. I'm old enough to remember during Hurricane Katrina, which I think is a pretty good analogy to a ticking time bomb situation like the one we had here in Southern California. Somehow George W. Bush got blamed for Hurricane Katrina and New Orleans flooding, which was always inevitable. So using that standard, I don't think it's irrational to blame Governor Newsom since he's the guy at the top of this food chain.
Ian? Thank you for having me. I really appreciate your time and having me part of the program tonight. And let me say that my heart goes out to all the people that are being impacted and everybody that's on the ground responding. I have friends that have lost their homes. I have a friend that I'm currently trying to find a place for in the event that he needs to evacuate his home, which is increasingly looking likely like that's going to happen. So from my family to yours, my heart goes out to you. I certainly understand where John is coming from, but I just don't understand how that's helping the situation. You have people that have lost everything, and all we're seeing is finger pointing, trying to blame whoever, the governor, the mayor, for being responsible for what is happening. But at the end of the day, you have the governor on the ground who's doing all that he can to try to get resources to people. You have first responders that are on the ground doing everything they can to fight these fires. You have National Guardsmen, 1,000 of them, which the governor called in to protect from looting. And I just don't understand the logic behind how this is helping people become whole again. This is a catastrophic event, and by making it political, it solves no problems. It doesn't help anybody. And I think we need to focus on getting whatever we can to the people that need it and the leaders that are on the ground in charge of handling this situation, the resources that they need to help these folks.
And John, to be very clear, you have been very critical publicly on X and elsewhere of Gavin Newsom. So go ahead and respond.
Yeah, well, this sounds like an excuse to me, Dan, this whole idea, which the mayor of Los Angeles has also used. We have to focus on the response as if we can't do two things at once. There can't be any sort of responsibility or accountability while we're also responding to these fires. And, as critical as I've been of Governor Newsom, I've also praised him for effectively becoming a Republican overnight when it comes to the issue of rebuilding and trying to get rid of some of these absolutely insane environmental restrictions. It'll be very interesting to see whether or not he holds to that. But basically, we're saying now that all of a sudden, the crazy environmental restrictions that have prevented building in the past in Southern California, we're going to get rid of those because we're in a situation where they're not politically tenable. Look, you lose the benefit of the doubt when you have a one-party state, when you are entirely full of their philosophy is entirely based in progressive politics, in DEI, in virtue signaling, in environmental wackoism. When results come out like this, you must take some responsibility for that. And I wish Governor Newsom would do that. That would be real leadership instead of trying to pass the buck and delay any sort of accountability, which your guest seems to be all in favor of happening. Ian?
So, it's, again, is this helpful? I don't know, but do we not talk about it? I mean, I think that everyone that has been watching these fires was simply baffled when they saw firemen turn on hoses and water didn't come out of them. When we watch that, can we just ignore that? Can we ignore that no water was coming out of the hoses? And then when we see politicians interviewed in regards to this, they don't accept responsibility for it. So I think that that is a big part of this, and moving forward, the competence necessary to rebuild. When I watch these reports coming out of California, the most competent people that step up to the microphone and tell the rest of us what's going on are the professional law enforcement the professional firemen, the professional emergency workers. They run rings around the politicians because they're concerned with results and saving lives and saving buildings and stopping the fire and mitigating this disaster. Whereas politicians step up there and they're trying to preemptively deflect blame away from themselves and onto others, or just simply say what many have said is that, oh, why do we even have to talk about this? Well, really? You think we're going to ignore that there was a great deal of incompetence with this? No, I think we need to talk about this and we need to address it, because moving forward, it's going to be a big part of the recovery of Los Angeles. The same people that brought us this are going to be in charge when they attempt to rebuild Los Angeles and they attempt to recover from this heinous disaster. And we must also think about the people affected by this, the hundreds of thousands of people that lost homes, vehicles, livelihoods, friends, family, a way of life. We have to think about those people and getting them back to being whole or somewhat whole, or to relocate them out of this area. That's the immediate problem, to relocate many of these people. Not all of these people are wealthy people, can just, get a room at the Ritz-Carlton, So it's so important moving forward to rebuild.
Tom.
Gotti Schwartz tonight for us in Malibu. Gotti, we thank you for that. And for those who have lost everything, another crisis has quickly emerged. Where will they find a new place to live? Here's Morgan Chesky.
We're going to find a house, I promise. I promise we'll find a house.
A promise for a new home. Ashley and Tim Palmatier are now fighting to keep amid a disaster that's ignited a citywide housing crisis. The family of 6, including their pup Apollo, one of dozens, packing an open house after watching flames approach, then engulf their beloved Palisades home.
Wednesday afternoon, we saw footage that our entire neighborhood had burned down.
With more than 12,000 structures destroyed and potentially more to come, the demand for LA's rental market exploding overnight.
You call and you're like, hey, can I come see it? And they're like, nope, it's rented. You call another one. Hey, can I come see it today? Nope, it's rented already. So it's
Ashley says she's looked into 50 properties over the last several days.
In some cases, people driving hours just to find a home.
Yes.
LA realtor Tanya Stosky says fewer options are already leading to price gouging.
We have greedy landlords who are spiking up the prices. And we also have a bidding war as well.
A check on Zillow for one property near the Palisades 3 days after the fires began shows rent jumping $10,000. It's since been removed, but officials warn price surges are growing. The governor declared a state of emergency last week, which means any price hike over 10% on essential goods, including rental housing, is illegal under California law.
Price gouging is sick, it's wrong, it's illegal. These scams taking advantage of victims and re-victimizing them.
They say if you see or are a victim of price gouging, report it immediately to local law enforcement or state authorities.
then we'll find another one. We'll just keep looking.
For the Palmatiers, it's not just about getting a place to live. They've also got to get their kids back in the classroom after their schools burned to the ground.
How are y'all staying sane amidst all this?
Just taking it one second.
So, folks, this is what we're seeing right now in LA. Real lives, real people trying to get their lives back on track. And as I said earlier, the fires are not out yet, and the rebuilding is going to have to start very soon. So, folks, this is Police Off the Cuff. If you're not subscribed, hit that red subscribe button on the screen. Give us a thumbs up. Ring the bell. Share us with your friends and your family. If you want to contribute to us, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel membership. You can become part of the Police Off the Cuff family. Until the next time, folks, I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Have a great day, and God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.